What's up, guys? Brian Grossman here with Grossman Woodworking and DIY. And on today's video, I wanted to run through what I feel are the seven most common mistakes that new woodworkers make. And I'm all too familiar with these because, one, I'm still very much a new woodworker at this point. And two, I've made every single one of these mistakes, probably multiple times. So I feel very qualified to speak on these. And my hope with this video is that by sharing these, you'll be able to avoid some of these same mistakes yourself. And it'll just speed up the learning curve where you can become a better, more consistent woodworker. With that, we're going to dive in. But hey, make sure you stick around for number 7 because it is the most common mistake I think that all woodworkers make, and one that ties a lot of these other ones in together. So make sure you stay around for number 7. But with that, let's jump right into number 1. And the first common mistake that I think a lot of new woodworkers make is not starting their project with good quality materials. And no, I don't mean you have to use exotic hardwoods for all your projects. I'm not saying that at all. Nothing wrong with using, construction lumber or cedar fence pickets, whatever your project calls for. I'm just saying take time, dig through that pile and find the best boards you possibly can. Make sure they're straight, make sure they don't have knots in areas that are going to cause a problem, or they're not split, or they don't have like a crown to them. Especially these cedar fence pickets are bad about that. Again, take a little time, make sure you're getting a good, straight, quality board, and that it has the grain you want, the look you want, and that it's going to be a good addition to your project. Because if you start with poor quality materials, I can guarantee you you're going to get a poor quality end product. Second mistake that a lot of new woodworkers make, and I've definitely made this one myself, is not taking time to calibrate your tools, specifically your table saw and your miter saw. And you may assume that because you bought something brand new that it's already calibrated and ready to go, and it might be, it very well may be, but don't assume that, because a lot of times they're not. They're not perfectly set up and square out of the box. If you buy one used, and it's certainly that was my thing. I bought a couple things used, didn't think to check that or calibrate them when I got it. I just assumed, hey, they're set up and the way they're supposed to be, and that can quickly lead to frustration when you can't get your cuts right. So read the instruction manual, take time to calibrate it, make sure the blade is good and square in every direction, and that when you do set it for a miter cut or a bevel cut, that it's the angle that it's supposed to be, that the gauge is reading right, all that kind of stuff. I just take some time to get it all set up, and that will avoid a lot of headaches later on down the line. Third mistake a lot of new woodworkers make is using dull blades or bits, or just inferior quality blades or bits. And I've been bad about this, trying to save a few bucks and buying cheap blades or cheap drill bits. And it ends up in frustration most of the time, or at least having to replace them a lot more frequently than if I just forked out a little more money on the front end and got something that could be sharpened and used for a long time to come. So just go ahead and get some good quality ones up front, and make sure you're keeping them good and sharp, whether you learn to do that yourself or you take it to somebody else who can do that for you. But make sure you're keeping those sharp so you don't create problems in your projects that you're going to have to end up taking care of or covering up in the finishing stages, just making more work for yourself later in the process. So use good quality blades and bits, and make sure you're keeping them sharp. Fourth common mistake that a lot of new woodworkers make, and this is one, honestly, I'm not sure why it's not number 1. I just, these are no specific order other than number 7, but it's not measuring twice and cutting once, which if you've been a woodworker longer than a week, you've probably heard that phrase, and there's a reason why that's so common, so popular of a cliche, and that's because it's a common mistake that all of us woodworkers make. Is it's really easy to get in a hurry and take a quick measurement and be off by a 16th or an eighth or whatever, or just misreading, maybe being off by an inch because you thought it was 26 3/4 and it was actually 27 3/4. So take time, slow down when especially when you're taking those measurements, and get a good precise measurement. Make sure you're transferring it to your board uh, as precisely as possible, and then make sure you're taking time to make a good clean cut on that line that you've marked. And if you need to, cut it a little long, test fit it, and then creep up where it needs to be, rather than just going in there and cutting it one time and finding out that too late that it's a little short. And I'll go one step further in saying that one thing that has really helped me improve the quality of my builds is when I started doing test cuts. And I finally developed a pretty good scrap pile back here. So anytime I'm doing any kind of cut that's like a miter, any kind of angle cut like that, a bevel, or anything special like that, or a certain joint, I'll get out some scrap and make that test cut first to ensure that I'm getting the result that I want, whether it's a good crisp 90-degree angle or whatever the case may be. But do a test cut. Take some time. I know it's a little extra step in the process, but it's one that will definitely pay dividends down the line. Before we dive into that fifth one, if you feel like you're getting anything out of this at all, please take just a second to hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell. That helps us grow this channel, and we're really trying to grow it to 10,000 subscribers and beyond. So if you can help us out big time by just hitting that subscribe button. And with that, we'll dive into the fifth common mistake that a lot of new woodworkers make, and especially in this day and age of social media and YouTube, and that's comparing yourself to others. And this is something I've definitely been guilty of. I consume a lot of woodworking YouTube videos, and I often find myself thinking, man, why can't I do that? Or when will I be at that level? And it's a slippery slope. I mean, there's nothing wrong for striving to be a great woodworker, but it's not a race. The only race is with yourself as you work to improve with each and every project. That's the only thing you need to focus on, is making sure you're getting better with each and every project. But don't compare yourself to others, because you don't know their story. You don't know their experience level or how long they've been at it. As long as you're improving, that's all that matters. So don't get caught up in the trap of looking at what others are doing and wondering why you can't do that. And number six is kind of along those same lines, and that is perfectionism. It's a common mistake. It seems like something ingrained in a lot of woodworkers, and I struggle with this myself, trying to build the perfect project, and it doesn't exist. Again, you just need to focus on doing the best you can with each project, learning from your mistakes, and then making sure that you're improving over time. That's all you can do. I don't think I'll ever finish a project and step back and say, "Man, that's flawless." That was perfect. Maybe someday, but I don't expect that, and I try to keep in mind, remind myself, even though I want to strive for a great product, but I just remind myself that it's never going to be perfect. That mistakes are going to be made along the way, because we're human and we're working with wood, which is not perfect in itself. And so you just have to accept those mistakes, roll with them, make the most out of them, and learn from them. And then last but not least, and again, this one I feel is the most common mistake that woodworkers make, and really ties into some of these others that we talked about, and that is rushing through a project or getting impatient, and that's when mistakes are often made. And I'm bad about it, especially the closer to the end of the project that I get. I start seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. I start thinking, man, I can't wait to show this to my wife, or I can't wait to post this on my Facebook page, or share the YouTube video. And I'll end up rushing in the finishing process, the sanding, the staining, the finishing, that kind of thing. And man, that is where you can really ruin a project. And it's just as easy to rush even in the beginning stages of the project, like we've already talked about, rushing in your measurements, rushing in not calibrating your tools, or not making your test cuts. All that kind of impatience is what leads to mistakes, and it costs you quality. So slow down. This is not a race. Take your time with each and every project, and just focus on accuracy and precision, making precision cuts, making sure everything fits together just right. Again, cutting those test pieces to make sure everything's perfect before you cut your final pieces, and just making sure you're doing things right and slowing down and taking the time. And man, you will see a huge improvement in your projects if you just do that. And that wraps up what I think are the 7 most common mistakes that new woodworkers make. But I'd love to hear your feedback. If you've got another one that you would add to this list, or if you didn't agree with one of them I had on the list, or whatever the case may be, I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. I try to answer each and every one of those. I definitely read each and every one of them, and if they require a response, then I try to do that. So be sure to take time to do that. And with that, guys, as always, I'll see you on the next video.